Last week on Battlefield 1's Best Weapons, we discussed the infantry rifles in the game. I picked a top 3 and we saw the SMLE Mark III come out on top. This week, however, we're starting off with user voting. We're going to list the top 3 SMGs in the game, all based off of you guys voting, the Battlefield community. Over 5,000 votes were cast. Let's see what came out on top. Now, in my poll that you could all vote on in the last episode, I elected to include all types of weapons in the assault class, apart from the shotguns, which are their own separate category. This means weapons like the new M1917 Trench Carbine, which is a semi-auto pistol conversion, and the M1912 machine pistol were also included to be voted for. The Rib A-Rolls was also included despite being listed as a carbine, so essentially the best SMG will be defined from a complete list of assault weapons minus the shotguns. Also, don't forget to stick around to the end of the video to find out which weapon category you're going to be voting on next. So, let's get this list started. All results for this poll conducted are taken from the 11th of January, which is when I'm recording this commentary. Spot number 3, with 844 votes, is the Automatico M1918. I'm not surprised at all to see this weapon in the list, but I must confess, I thought it might take second spot, but it's been beaten out by something else. With the announcement of the weapon balance patch coming in the next few weeks, the Automatico is likely about to get caught up in terms of potential damage per second, but I have a feeling it will always remain a favourite for quite a few Battlefield 1 players. The Automatico comes in 3 variants, the Factory, the Trench, and the Storm. Now, I'm rather partial to the Storm variant for reasons I'll explain in a minute, but really any of these variants are going to perform quite well in extreme close quarters. The weapon is balanced to directly combat shotguns with its extremely high rate of fire, 900 rounds a minute, and an overall focus on hipfire. The Trench variant is best if all you want to do is hipfire it. It has a tighter bullet spread than the other 2 variants, meaning you can be confident that your shots are landing on target if that target is quite close to you, inside 15 meters or so. Outside of that, and you will start to struggle. Recoil comes into play more and more as the target you're aiming at gets further and further away. The target is obviously getting smaller, and therefore that exacerbates the recoil effects. And this is where the Storm variant comes into play. The Storm, while still being focused on that extreme close quarters effectiveness, it comes with decreased recoil when firing from the hip and aiming down sights. This will give you an opportunity to bring down players that are a little bit further away, but you will still need to take into account that the bullet spread of this variant is higher than that of the Trench variant, whether you're using iron sights or you're not. Now, I prefer this variant because of that reduced vertical and horizontal recoil. It does allow me to reach out a little bit further with the weapon and potentially bring down other targets. And we also have the Factory variant, which, like low-weight machine gun variants, recovers from recoil and spread faster. Now, this can be very helpful if you're in a situation where you might want to fire and stop firing in quick succession without reloading. Essentially bursting the weapon, but not really bursting the weapon. You need to leave a little bit more of a gap in between stopping firing and starting firing again. So each time you stop firing, the weapon quickly resets the recoil and the spread to the center of the screen, meaning the aim is true again when you fire your next shot. The first shot recoil multiplier is also lower on the Factory variant, meaning the weapon doesn't kick as hard when you first start firing it. It might be the variant that most players would consider using, but with the Trench having that really powerful bonus of hipfire accuracy, I'm sure players will be picking that one instead. So that's the Automatico in spot number 3. Spot number 2 surprised me quite a bit as well. I wasn't expecting to see this up here considering its best use scenario is not really native to the Assault class, but hey, you guys voted for it. Spot number 2 with 1,541 votes, that's quite a considerable amount more than the Automatico. Spot number 2 is taken by the Ribeiro 1918. The Ribeiros was introduced into Battlefield 1 with the French DLC, They Shall Not Pass, and perhaps that's one of the main reasons why the weapon has trumped other weapons in the list. This was the first DLC to be released for Battlefield 1, and there's no doubt there were more people playing at that point, so visibility of the weapon was probably much higher. That said, I'm not going to try and take anything away from the Ribeiro, because it is actually a really good fun gun to use. It only comes in one variant, the Carbine, and it incorporates a bipod that can be deployed on cover or on the ground if you prone. Now this removes much of the recoil that the weapon possesses, and at the time it was added, it introduced a completely different assault playstyle. The Ribeiro allowed assault players to have more of an impact on gunfights at longer ranges, provided they use the bipod. Without it, the weapon kicks quite severely upwards, and its effective range is quite limited. Bipod out, and it can reach much, much further. The maximum damage of only 23 reaches out to 10 or 11 meters, which means in close quarters, you'll be on a fairly even playing field with other SMGs, but you do have to be aware of that upwards recoil. When targets are close, it's easy to manage, but the further they are away, the harder you will find it to keep your shots on target consistently. That's where the bipod comes in though. I'd say anything beyond 30 meters or so, and you'd be likely better served finding a way to deploy that bipod and use it instead. The action does somewhat slow down the play of an assault player using it. It takes time to prone and deploy that bipod, which makes you an easy target if you do it out in the open. Arguably, however, the reduced recoil when it's deployed means you should be able to take down targets at range much faster. And with the upcoming weapon balance patch, the Ribeiro is going to get quite a significant buff. It will soon have the capability to kill an enemy at close range in 4 shots instead of 5, and at longer ranges you'll need 1 shot less as well. If you like the weapon now, then I think you're really going to like the weapon later on in January when that new patch arrives. So the Ribeiro takes spot number 2 with nearly double the amount of votes than that of third place, the Automatico. And that leaves spot number 1. I mean, come on, it's not really hard to figure out what the best SMG in Battlefield 1 is. Getting 1,982 votes, it's the Hellriegel 1915. This weapon has been popular pretty much ever since the moment Battlefield 1 was released. It's a weapon people love to talk trash about as well, and it's such a common sight both on PC and on consoles. But there is no denying that the weapon is extremely effective. Now, when Battlefield 1 launched, the Hellriegel 1915 factory variant was unlocked for players who reached class rank 10 for the Assault, and a little bit of trivia here, that happened a lot faster than what DICE intended. The class ranks were slightly bugged when the game launched, which meant the vast majority of players ended up getting the weapon much faster. DICE later fixed the bug and reduced class ranks back to where they should have been, but they left players with the weapon unlocked with it in their inventory. No wonder people complained so much after launch that there wasn't enough to grind for. They were just given it, essentially, due to a bug. In mid-2017, DICE introduced a second variant of the Hellriegel, the defensive variant. This included a larger capacity drum magazine, optical sights instead of iron sights, and a bipod attachment, essentially trying to give players another weapon in the assault class that had greater range. This weapon came with worse recoil stats than the factory, which is arguably the statistic that makes the factory so great in the first place, and that almost forced players to keep their weapon deployed if they wanted to land their shots on target. Sticking to the factory variant though here is why players of Battlefield 1 love to talk trash on it. It has a 60 round drum magazine, a rate of fire of 650 rounds a minute, and a recoil pattern consisting of only a 0.28 pull vertically and a 0.38 pull horizontally. The gun is just a bullet hose. The easily controlled recoil allows players to use all 60 of those rounds in close quarters to just end the lives of enemy after enemy. Now, on console, the usage of the weapon is extremely high, and that's likely tied into the auto-aim system, which was quite severe for some time. Aim near the target, aim down sights, the aim snaps to the body of the player, and then you just pull the trigger. Half a second later, the player is dead. You can easily see why some players like to give this weapon a bad rep, but it was still voted as the best SMG in Battlefield 1 for exactly the same reasons that people love to hate it. It's a fairly easy gun to get kills with, and that's what you're looking to do most of the time in a first-person shooter, just kill other players. So that wraps up the best SMGs in Battlefield 1. The Automatico, the Ribbe Roll, and the Hellriegel reign supreme, but each of them has their own unique uses and benefits. But now it's time to start voting on the next weapon category for the next episode of Battlefield 1 Best Weapons. I've linked a straw poll down in the description. Go and click that link and start voting on what you think is the best medic rifle in Battlefield 1. Lots of choices to go for this time, and I think we might see more of a spread in the overall voting. If you guys could leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed it, that makes it very easy for me to see how well this series is doing and if you guys really are enjoying it. And of course, leave any thoughts and opinions down below in the comments section. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.